Hello everyone, Paul from High Tech Legion. And let me ask this. Do you have what it takes to downsize? We're so used to these large cases and showing our stuff that it's just become more of a phallic symbol than it has been anything else. I mean, yeah, we like to have room, we like to show off our little things, but how many desks can you actually fit a super tower case in or under without having to compromise space yourself? There are alternatives. You could go with a micro case, you could go with a mid-tower case, you could go with a regular size, maybe a smaller full tower. But our focus today is going to be on a more of a mid-type micro ATX tower. And this is the Phanteks Enthoo Evolv. It's got a lot of nice features to it. It's nicely constructed, and it's going to allow you to maximize the amount of space that it has in it and put full-size components. So you're not going to have to suffer in that aspect. The Phanteks Enthoo Evolv is constructed of aluminum, very heavy aluminum. This whole case could be deconstructed, which is going to make it very easy for you to do what you need to do. You'll notice how in the front here, it's got a blank panel, so there's nothing at all that you could see. Yes, you can put an optical drive in it, but you're going to have to pull off the front panel in order to get to your optical drive. Nowadays, a lot of us with the new USB sticks, etc., we're not using the optical drives anymore. We're saving stuff to the cloud. So it's a possibility you don't need an optical drive. So if you're not going to use an optical drive, you're not going to have a problem with not being able to pull that off very easily. It is very well secured, so you are going to need to actually grab it with two hands and take it off. Let's go to the side of the case. As you can see, the side of the case has a window here, and it has a panel, but you don't see any thumb screws behind. In a second, I'll show you how we get that open. Towards the back of the case, and I'm going to move overhead in the front here to show you, we have our back plate. You have 1, 2, 3, 4 expansion slots on the back. This is for your power supply. Of course, this is your I/O. It does come with a rear fan. That's a 120. And then when we go to this side, which is normally the non-windowed side, or the side that you don't see, you're going to notice that we have a power button, a reset button, and then we have our HD audio jacks and our USB 3.0s. So let's go ahead and look at the top, and then I'll show you the bottom. The bottom of this actually has a filter. So you could pull that out and clean it. So that's your power supply filter. There's another filter on here, and we'll get to that in a second. Alright, as I said, you could totally take this case apart. First thing we're going to do is take off the top piece. As you can see, the top piece comes off fairly simple, aluminum. And now we'll look at it. You've got room to put a nice sized rad in there, which we are going to do when I install this. So, as I said, the front piece does come off. Pull that off like that, voila. Again, aluminum. Very well constructed. These are not going to break. They're plastic, but the feet that secure it into it are very well made. They're dense. They're not flimsy. And I hate to use that word, but it fits with this. Over here we have another filter. As you can see, it's a filter for our fan, our front intake fan, and you'll notice that we have a cutout here. This is where you're going to mount your optical disc drive, of course, through here, this hole, and there's, in a second I will show you the bracket for that. So here's our fan. Here's our optical drive. Down here you'll notice that it has an LED. And basically that LED lights up your front plate right over here to show you that your power's on. How does this open? Well, very simple. It's on a hinge. So when you open the hinge, you can lift it up and pull it off. As you can see, there are hinge pins, 1 and 2. So now you can either open it, close it, pull it off to fully get inside of it. This is an actual SSD bracket. You can mount up to 3 SSDs on here, and it is removable. Let's go to the other side of the case. Again, this is how it opens. Open it, lift, pull off, and there you have it. Now, if you're familiar with Phanteks, you'll know that, of course, George has reviewed a couple of these. It has a PWM hub. Very good for those of you who are using a lot of case fans or using liquid cooling. Instead of having to go in through the header on your motherboard, this attaches to the header on your motherboard, and you plug in your fans to the PWM hub, and now everything is PWM, whether they be whether they be non-PWM or PWM fans. You'll notice that there's 2 buttons over here. These 2 buttons are to manually activate your power switch and your reset switch. Very large cutout on the motherboard tray. You're not going to have a problem mounting your bracket for your cooling system. There are grommets which are coming through for cable management, and on the bottom, when you turn it on this side here, you'll notice that this is where you're going to have to slide in your power supply, which is going to be through the bottom. There is also another SSD bracket on the back. And now let's go ahead and take a look at the front. Again, this is removable. We'll see that when I go through the installation. And how do you mount your 3.5-inch hard drives? Right through the back here. It's a toolless system. And if I can get it back in without seeing, we'll be good. Now, we'll just leave it on the side. Right here is where, now if you remember that front panel on the side, this is actually where it turns, where your HD audio jacks are and your USB 3.0. And again, as I said up on the top, your manual power switch and your reset switch. So it's not bad. It's fairly light when it's all taken apart. Looks good. Another thing that Phanteks likes to do is show us accessories. And they have a very nice accessory box. I hate to say this, but I hate when I just get a little plastic bag and it's got nothing in it but a few thumb screws. Come on. With it, you're going to get a very nicely laid out installation manual. They took some time to actually do this. They laminated it. So it actually goes to show that they're putting thought into what they're doing. Here we have some connectors. We have an extra LED light for multiple colors, so you can change the power LED on here just by going back and forth. I'll grab one out. I wasn't going to do it, but I know somebody's going to say something. And basically, take the color that you want, up on top of the case here where that LED is, pull that out, push it through, it connects back here, plug it in, you got whatever color you like. Of course, they give you extra straps, and if you notice, there are some straps already pre-attached to the case itself. Cable routing, cable management, Very good thought. And of course our little zip ties. One thing I like about Phanteks is they actually give you a little toolbox so you could actually keep your screws where they need to be. Again, no little bag. We're paying some decent money for these cases nowadays. This is not a $50 case, which I would expect a little bag. I've seen $200 cases come with a little bag inside of a box that looked like, you know, they recycled it and there was nothing left. For the back, again, here's the another extra SSD bracket. And last but not least is our optical disk drive. Before we start with the installation, I want to show you this bracket again. I said that this was an SSD bracket. It's actually not. It's a bracket to mount your pump for a full loop water cooling system. My first thing when I start building a case is I like to put the power supply in first. So we're going to go ahead and do that. The reason why I put the power supply in first because it gives me an idea on where I'm going to have to route my wires. Without it in there, then I have no clue what I'm going to do, and if I put it in once I've got everything all heavy, it becomes a pain in the neck. So we'll go ahead and take the power supply, slide it inside. And of course, as you can see, this is semi-modular, so it's going to be a little bit of a hassle to get it in there. It's a full-size power supply. Alright, slide that in, and now I'm going to go ahead and... Alright, we slid it in. We went ahead and attached it in the back, as you can see. I've got my 4 screws in. I've got my wires hanging out through the side. If you want to see what it looks like through the front panel, right there. So now that's firmly placed in. I know a lot of you like to put the motherboard in before you might put a cooling system in. But here's going to be what I'm going to do. Since I'm going to be using an AIO, I'm actually going to mount this first to see what clearance I need, so I could also get the wires up and over the motherboard so I could plug them into the PWM, which is actually behind the motherboard tray. So I'm actually going to mount the radiator first, or the radiator, whichever part of the country you come from, that's what you're going to call it. So why don't you go ahead and give me that rad over there, and I will show them where I'm going to go ahead and put that. Thank you. As you can see, this is an H100i by Corsair, and basically you're going to take it in. And of course I have the wires on the wrong side, not good. But we're going to take it in and we're going to mount it up here so I can see basically where I'm at. I'm going to have to turn those fans around and get the wires towards the back, but it's going to actually go up in the top here. So now that I know where I'm going to place it, I'm going to screw it in very lightly. I'm not going to firm it up, and place that in there so then I can place my motherboard and get the wires over the top of it. Then I'll probably take it out, work on the rest of the case, and then do what I need to do and put it back. So I just basically attached 2 screws to the top of the rad just to make sure I want to know where I'm going to mount it. As you can see, it's in, oops, of course I did that. And as you can see, it's mounted temporarily. So we'll go ahead and pull this down, and we're going to put in our motherboard. Now, of course, this case takes a mini-iTX or a micro-ATX motherboard. So for this install, I've chosen the MSI Z87M gaming motherboard. I've already put in my I/O plate. I'm just going to slide it in here, get it down in, and I'm going to go ahead and screw it, and then we'll take a look at it. All right, fairly simple. About 8-9 screws. Motherboard fits in, and as you'll notice, I do have room under here to route my wires. You can see that the motherboard does sit down below, so there is room to actually work and route wires up through the top. Some cases don't allow you to do that. They don't think about it. They don't give you the room. So of course, And yes, it was part of my plan. I purposely put this in here, the cooler, just to show you that when something is well thought out, even if you have to put something in prior, or when something is not well thought out, if you have to put something in prior, you need to do it so you pre-think ahead before you're going to have to unscrew everything. It was fairly simple to put in the bracket, the mounting bracket for the water cooler. Very nice hole. So we're going to go ahead and attach that in a second. Mounting your water cooling unit to the system is going to be fairly easy with this, especially if it's a new water cooling unit, because it comes with pre-applied thermal paste. As you can see, I've already put everything together. I've got my cords, everything done. I'm going to go ahead and flip the case over and go ahead and attach it. Make sure I get it the right way, the way that I want it. Put my bracket back on. And firmly put it in place here. Alright, well, I forgot to unplug the power for the pump before I put on the bracket, so that's why I cut instead of doing it. But in any case, this is what it looks like when it's all attached. I've already went ahead and put my power cord, plugged that into the motherboard, and I've also plugged in the 8-pin power. Next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and put in a hard drive. I'll show you how to do that. And I'm going to knock everything over here because I got wires hanging out. But, of course, the hard drive goes in the back. Take the slide carry out. And then it just clips right into the holes normally. Got to get it lined up correctly, and then it should just slide right in. There we go. Alright, so I'll go ahead and slide in my hard drive. And as you can see, now the hard drive's in. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to place our SSDs on our panel. Okay. This is the front of the panel. This is the back of the panel. How do you know? When you place it on here, this is how it has to sit. So it won't technically, well, actually it will go upside down, but in any case, when you put it in, you put it back on. So that's going to be pretty simple to do this. We're just going to take our two SSDs that I'm going to use, get my screws. It already has grommets in it, as you can see. I'll go ahead and attach the SSD bracket to the multi-purpose bracket, or attaching the SSD to the multi-purpose bracket is fairly simple. They do give you extra screws in the screw box. They're a little bit longer than normal. Not sure if you could really see that close, but they're a little bit longer. You put it through the grommet and basically just screw it in. Since I'm not going to be putting that in right away, I'll place it on the side, and then I'll show you what I've done in the back. In the back there is also an SSD bracket that you could use, and that comes off. Fits right here. That comes off. Screw your SSD on with your regular screws. Align the holes and just slide it back in, and it's secure. Attaching a video card and, okay, putting the video card in is simple. It's just finding what expansion slots you need to take out. There's some screws that go ahead and put it in there. So place in your video card. Take your thumb screws. Screw them in the best as you can. I usually take a screwdriver to get the top one because I can never get my fingers in there. And hopefully that'll work. And there you have it. So basically, this would be an entire setup on what you want to do. I'm going to go ahead, get everything inside the case, get it wired up, show you how that's going to look after I have everything wired, show you how I did wire it, everyone. Now we have the finished product, technically. I have to still put a couple things back on. But if you look inside, you can see it's nice and clean. There's a lot of airflow that can come across. I don't have anything impeding. Now, as per the cable management wasn't bad. Just got to open this. I wasn't able to really get this where I wanted it, so I just left it. But as you can see, I have everything nice and tight on the nice and tight against the case. So I've got an extra SSD back here, so we could go ahead and close this now. And then we'll turn it back around and start putting everything back together. Okay, I decided not to go with the front SSD. I've got an SSD in the hard drive cage and one in the back. So I'll just go ahead and put this back on. Doesn't need to have it on, but since it's there, I'm going to go ahead and do it. It wasn't very hard to get this put together. There was a decent amount of room to work with it, so you won't have a problem with working with it. Just remember one thing. This is built for a micro-ATX motherboard or mini-iTX. I think I might have said originally that you could use a full size, and I was wrong. The only thing that I'm worried about now is this board's not Wi-Fi, and I like to use Wi-Fi at home. Unless I'm gaming, of course. So once that panel's in, we'll go ahead and put the top back on. Put our front panel back in for our screen. I'm going to go ahead and not use an optical drive, so I didn't put it in, but yes, you saw that you have the bracket and it does mount here. I just don't feel like pulling things off. I guess you could say in my old age I'm getting lazy. So we'll pop that back together. Now I'll go ahead and take off the protective coating from the screen. Throw that back there. Line up my pins. Believe me, the other side took 2 seconds to put on here. There we go. Line up my pins. Close the case, and there you have it. Nicely done, well built, simple to use. Cable management's not bad. You can route your cables where you want them to. I use some twisty ties. Also with the straps that they have that are on the motherboard tray itself, I was able to use those to get a nice tight fit. The only thing I had a problem with, as I said, I have a very long 24-pin connector, so I wasn't able to really tighten that down, but of course you can see that the case is not bowing at all, so there is no problem with that. I'll give you my final words in a second. Downsizing your case and your components is fairly easy when you have the will to do it. A lot of us don't want to do that because we still think that bigger is better. Sometimes bigger isn't better. I've seen many cases that were gigantic that there were no place to really put fans. You had a couple fans in the front, maybe one in the back, and there was so much dead space that it didn't create a nice even flow of air coming in the front, going throughout the case and actually cooling the components. So bigger sometimes is not better. The Phanteks Enthoo Evolv is a very versatile case. As you can see, we did a little bit of AIO on this one. You could also use water cooling with it, which is another good thing. It's nice and easy to operate with and open. You don't have to pull off the front panels if you don't want to. The only thing you might have a problem with if you have it inside of a desk is getting to the opposite side to actually hit your power button, your reset button, and get to your USBs. One thing that I did not like about it was the amount of room that is available to put in a full-size power supply. This is a 1200 watt power supply, and of course it's about normal size, maybe just a little bit bigger, but it's very tight. Once I got all my wires in, and luckily I did put them in, and I suggest that you do put your wires on before you slide it in, because there's no way you're going to get your hands in there to plug in extra stuff. So what I would suggest is plug in everything that you need or you think you're going to need, and then worst case scenario you might have to pull it out again, but you could always unplug. I was able to get my fingers in there to kind of unplug, but I was never able to get it in there to plug. So that's one thing that I didn't appreciate about the case. Other than that, it cools very well. Ambient temperatures were just about room temperature. It's got some nice airflow. The case temperature with the AIO in there on 4770K at 4.8 was only about 76 degrees, so that wasn't bad at all. So we're going to go ahead and give the Phanteks Enthoo Evolv an Editor's Choice Award based on the build quality, the expandability of it. I mean, I have a large video card in there, no problems, no impediment, no nothing. And its construction is made very well, and they thought of a lot of different things. That PWM hub is great. You don't have to worry about getting your hands in there and plugging into your fan headers. Just take the wires through, because you're using a micro ATX board, so you got those grommets up on the top and the pass-throughs to actually do what you need to do. Use the PWM hub, it'll work great. And of course that is powered by a SATA power cable, so you're going to need power to it in order for it to work. I want to say thank you to everyone. Make sure you go ahead and subscribe to this channel on YouTube here. We need your subscriptions. The more subscriptions we get, the more we can expand and evolve. We are working on getting better things, as in microphones, maybe wireless mics, etc. So with your subscriptions, which gives us the availability to kind of maybe make a little bit more money, and you know, I don't normally ask for money. I'm not asking you for money, but advertising, when people watch our videos more, we get more advertising. Advertising helps us. So I would appreciate it if you would subscribe. It is Christmas time, and it's time to give, so why not give to High Tech Legion and give us a subscription. Go ahead and like us on Facebook, facebook.com/HTL Reviews. Follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/High Tech Legion. And of course, visit us at www.hightechlegion.com. Stay thirsty, my friends. I will see you the next time.